and welcome back to Hammond's Upholstery. This is, I think we've covered this previously, but we get asked this a lot regarding broken springs. This is part of a corner sofa, a chaise sofa. It's purchased from one of the big warehouse manufacturer sales places, beginning with a string of 3 letters. I can't say their name. And the customers called me and said, I've got broken springs in my sofa, can you replace them? And I said, yes, of course I can. And they said, will you do it in the property? I explained to them, no, we won't do it in the property. We can't do the job properly in the property. There's too much involved in it. And they asked, well, can't you replace the springs from the underside of the sofa? Because I can see the springs. And yes, they may be able to see the springs from the underside of the sofa, but the springs are not attached to the underside of the sofa. Let me explain that a bit better for you, perhaps. This is the underside of the sofa. I've taken the bottom cloth off and you can see what's going on here. Now the springs are not attached to the underside of this spring rail. This is the spring rail that the springs are attached to. They sit on top of the spring rail, so it takes the weight of whomever's sitting on it. If they're attached to the underside of the spring rail, it's easy to push them out, however they're fixed. These, incidentally, are fixed with a clip that sits on top of the rail. I will get a piece of wood and try to explain it a bit better. They sit on the top of the rail and then they're pressed into place and hold their position because they've got these metal prongs that go over the edge of the wood. Let me show you here. So the spring sits on top of the rail like so. Can you see that? And these prongs come over the edge and go into the face of the wood. Now, the person that upholstered this for this particular manufacturer has put the clips on and either not bothered or forgot to put a fixing clout nail in the top of the rail here through this hole. So what's happening is as people are sitting on these springs, they eventually start moving up and down. As I'm sure you know yourself, if you get metal and bend it backwards and forwards, bend backwards and forwards, it eventually fractures and snaps along that joint. And that's what's been happening with these spring clips. You can see here, it's missing the tangs off of it. So the springs haven't broken themselves. It's a fault of the manufacturing process that the spring clips haven't been attached properly. Now, I can't answer why that is. They do have the facility to put a clout nail in the top here. You can see that hole there to stop it from lifting, but they haven't done. And this is the end result of it. All the springs are coming away, front and back edge. The customer's very concerned that the rest of their sofa may do this, and I can't really comment because you won't know until it happens at this point. There's no way of telling whether the company has put nails in these spring clips, but this is what's happened. I've had the sofa 4 years, I believe, so not particularly long. Fingers crossed the rest of them on the rest of their sofa doesn't come apart. So we can't attach the springs to the underside of this rail. If we use spring clips and attach them to the underside of the rail, the fact that you're sitting on it is going to push these springs out. They need to sit on the top. Now there are some unscrupulous people that will go around and do all sorts of bodges. I've seen springs held in with cable ties, bits of wire, anything to do that, and they will charge them a couple £100 to replace springs and run away. The only other item that I've seen that has come close to attempting to do this by attaching the spring to the underside of the rail are these clips. Here you go, show these. So, and I don't like these either. They don't do the job any better. So this is the top of the spring rail where you would normally attach the spring clip, like so. Hammer that over the spring and put some big staples in that. And I was talking about 1 inch, 2 inch wire staples, right? Because you've got this rail to go through. The rail's a lot thinner at the top edge. This is a standard spring rail. These clips, which you can attach from the underside of the sofa, they basically screw to the face side here, and then this becomes the anchor for your spring. Okay, so that becomes the anchor for the spring, and you screw it onto this face here. Now, bearing in mind this piece of timber is 3/4 of an inch thick, so the longest screw you can put in there is inch screws. And with this amount of weight and pressure on this, that I don't see them lasting very long. There is a little wire clip that goes in, and this is supposed to stop the spring from working its way back out at the back of the clip here. Okay, it doesn't do anything more than that. So these clips, albeit better than some of the solutions I've seen, they're not really the answer. The answer is to do the job properly. And if they haven't done it properly first time and we get asked to repair or rectify the issue, the only way to do this properly is to attach the springs to the top of that spring rail. Otherwise, things like this happen if you don't attach the spring clip to the top of the spring rail. These ones have come off, all for the sake of a clout nail in there. So I've got to strip this seat out to get to the springs. So that's unpick all the fabric around the bottom, and then potentially unpick the arm and the back to be able to get this seat platform here. The seat platform, which is the part that the cushions sit on top. I need to peel that back to then get to the springs. And if there's, you know, the majority of these manufacturers don't put canvas on, which this one hasn't. You can see here there's no canvas on there, that's just Luxbond. We have to peel the canvas, then Luxbond back to get to the springs and do it. It's time consuming, and we've got to do it carefully because we don't want to damage the customer's fabric. And then if you're looking at furniture that's got fixed cushions on it, it's even more of an issue to do. So a simple spring can be a big expensive problem, certainly to do the job properly. And as you know, I like to do it properly. So there you go, this is what I'm on with now. So join me. I've got to unpick all the bottom of this sofa and see what I need to take off to be able to gain access, excuse me, to the springs. And I'm going to have to do every single spring clip on this because the customer thought there was 2 or 3 springs coming off, and now I've got the bottom cloth off. It's evident that pretty much all these clips have not been fixed on properly. Therefore, I've got to replace them all. So let's get this set upside down and I'll unpick the bottom. there. Now I explained to you what we needed to do and the reasons why we needed to do them to get to these springs which are attached to the seat rail around the edge. So I've been round, I've unpicked all the seat, as you can see here. So I've had to unpick it all the way round. I've had to unpick the outside arm to be able to get to this side of the seat, all that back. So, and I've had to unpick part of the outside back. This can stay attached here. Hopefully I can get to the seat rail, to the springs there. Then this Lux bond needs to be removed. And there we go. That's exposed the springs. I'm going to struggle with the one on the back corner looking at this, unfortunately. Sure, I'll get round it. And as you can see, there's no canvas. Manufacturers haven't put canvas on it. We've got the edge roll foam here. So let's just clip that as far as necessary. Here we have our springs. Now the edge of these springs have just been covered just with cardboard. Potentially the cardboard's protecting the foam or the fabric from where, there you go, look at this here. I hope you can see this here at this point. Even the manufacturers have had a problem with their spring clips. At the time of manufacturing, and somebody's used a bit of cotton tape there to hold that spring in place. That's done by the manufacturer. So even they know that there's issues with these spring clips. Rather than simply rectify it, they've botched it. So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have failed. These two here, let me get something to try them with, literally about to fail. Look at that. And this one. So I've only got 2 springs that haven't failed. Wow. Wow. I would blame the spring clips. Yes, there is a fracture occurring along the spring clips for this to happen, but all the manufacturers needed to do is put a clamp nail in or a staple in where the spring clip manufacturers have put a hole for that purpose. They've not done it. So I'm going to replace all these springs. The springs haven't broken, it's the clips that are broken. So we can reuse the springs, but we've got to replace the clips of every single one of them. Yeah. One off, so that also I would consider there being plenty of springs in as well. It's a shame. Right. So let's get this clip off. This one. Replace them. Ironically, these two clips seem okay. It's alright having two that are okay. There you go, backwards, forwards, and it snapped. Exactly what's in here. We will replace them with new clips, and we will staple the clips on with a 1 inch to 2 inch staple, depending on how thick the rail is. This rail is thick enough that I could get a 2 inch staple in it, so we will use 2 inch staples. So I'll get these springs off, and the clips that haven't failed just yet at the back, and I'll come back to you when we're putting the new clips in and the springs back on. So back on with these springs. I've put a few springs in. You don't need to see me do all of them, but I will show you the other ones that we're going to do. So I've shown you the pour fittings or installation of the old spring clips. So we put some new spring clips in, and we'll show you how I like to fit them here. The spring clips I'm currently using aren't my favourite, but they're just as good. It's just preference, but these ones do the job just as well as the ones that I would normally use. So let's spin you around and show you what we're on with. Okay, so these are the clips on. These are the clips open, clip closed and stapled down. So this is using a 1 inch staple through this. They're not going anywhere. Okay, if we wanted to we could use a 2 inch, but it's complete over the top, especially with this rail. So we've used a 1 inch, so we need to close these down and staple them. You can see the other ones here. Incidentally, the original manufacturers hadn't cut the springs to the correct length. Don't know if you can see that here. This one's I've cut to length, this one's cut to length, this one isn't, and it's a lot looser than this. They had pulled it tight enough but hadn't cut it off, so the bit of spring was just sitting on this rail, and it probably exacerbated the lifting process because of that pulled those old clips off. So I need to cut these here, leaving enough of a tail on or a return of the hoop on so that the spring can't slide out. So if you see this spring can't go through here. I've seen it before where they've been cut here and the springs have travelled out of the clips. So let's just see if I can't put the camera in a better position and show you what I'm going to do next. Right, hopefully that position allows you to see what's going to happen now. So I'm going to cut these springs to length, leaving a return clip, just using bolt croppers, like so. Pull the spring under some tension. Not a great deal of tension, as you can see there. It's not that difficult for me to pull this round like so. Cut the clip down. Big staple gun. Couple of 1 inch staples in there. That's got those clips held fast. So that's the springs replaced. And we now need to put the piece of furniture back together. So here we have all the springs replaced, clipped in, ready to go. Me personally, I think that's okay. There's no canvas on this originally. Just clearing off some missing staples there. So let's put this platform cloth, so to speak, canvas. It's a polyester wadding, but it's just matted together to make it quite firm. And that's why they've not put canvas on it. I still would like to see canvas on there. There we go. Clip the edge roll back on. See, edge roll, this gives it a little bit of a, well, it says edge. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 springs replaced. There you go. We've replaced all of them. They all needed doing. They're all going to come off. It's pointless me doing a couple of them, sending it back to the customer, and then the customer come out and say, apart. I think you do that at the same time. Okay. I know the customer is slightly concerned that their rest of the suite they're going to have the same problem with, and I agree with them. I would be concerned as well. So let's get this platform cloth back on. Again, turn the piece of furniture upside down and put it back together. So I'll come back to you once I've stapled all this off and got a bottom cloth on it, and you can see the finished item. But there you go, that's spring replacement. That is the difference between using well, I've gone over it. Spring clips I think were adequate, but it would have helped if the people that installed the clips had put a nail in them. Would have prevented the clips coming away and prevented the customer an expensive repair. So I'll get that done and I'll come back to you and show you the finished item. Okay, so it's done. I would say back on its feet, but I don't have the feet here. So that's the 11 springs, not replaced because the springs hadn't snapped, the clips had failed. So that's 11 springs reinstalled with proper spring clips. The worrying thing is the rest of the customer suite going to have the same problem. I said at the beginning of this that I believe this was from one of the large warehouses. The name is abbreviated into the letters. Well, it's not. On further investigation, it's not from one of them, so my apologies to them. It actually comes from a high street clothing brand that also does homewares here in the UK, and I don't mean the one that does food as well. So there you go. They barely make passable clothing, so what to expect. So if you really want to know who it is, message me in the comments, and I'll tell you. But there you go. So it's ready to go back. It's a shame the manufacturers missed out or installed those clips incorrectly. Otherwise, in general, the level of quality isn't bad actually. So there you go. You need to up your quality control, not just at the end of the production line, but through the production. And it would have picked up on that, I think. So as for now, as again, this is only really meant to be a entertainment to show you what's going on here in the workshop. It's not necessarily instructional, but if you pick up any hints or tips along the way, that's great. We'll keep putting the content out there. Hope you enjoy seeing what's going on. So as for the end of this episode, replacing damaged springs, we'll see you in the next one, and hopefully we've got something interesting for you. Please like and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.